Welcome to the Hansen Brothers podcast. I'm Timmy and joined by my brother Kevin. We are teammates and world champions in Rallycross. This podcast is our space to catch up while traveling the motorsport world.
Welcome everyone back to another episode. As always, Timmy and myself, Kevin here. But also today, as we have finished finally the first race weekend of the year, we got a special guest with us, the special engineer, the mastermind, Josep. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, guys. I've been a long-time follower of the podcast since the first episode, so very happy to be here.
We got our first fan. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Josep, also known as Grip Engineer. If you follow the sim racing project that we did, then you'll be very familiar with Josep already. But the reason you're here today is because, as Kevin said, we're going to do today the first recap of a race weekend. Me and Josep was just in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to do the first E1 World Championship. And we got their first race to talk about. Didn't really go to plan. But we've had fun. We kicked the season off.
So can I just step in and ask what, in general, just make a quick general overview of the weekend, just run through some of the races. Was there any big moments? Was there any big disappointments? And what was the final result?
I think it was an interesting week because before the first race, there was the pre-season testing, which was also for extra days. So it was very, very interesting for us as a team to use that opportunity to learn new things about the boat, new techniques, new settings. So we used that. Also, we had a new driver in Marit, who was already with us last season as a reserve driver and a coach. This year, she was the primary female driver. So it was also a good opportunity to get her up to speed and test new things. Timmy, how did you feel that the pre-season testing went?
Yeah, exactly. That was a good summary. We spent a long time out there, and the biggest disappointment that you asked, Kevin, is probably that we finished 7th after all that work. So it didn't really go perfectly. But I must say, the level this year, how fast people are going, is a massive step up. People are handling the boats much better. And there have been a couple of key changes that we worked a lot on during this preseason testing. There is variable boost, and you can adjust a few more things on the boat that we couldn't last year. So it has been very intense. And also getting Marit up to speed. It was only her first ever race in E1. So there is so much to learn about how you do this boat, how you fly it above the water, and so on. So we spent a lot of the preseason testing kind of figuring out how to drive again, and we gave Marit a lot of runs because even though she's won races in the very highest level in boat racing, and she's one of the world's best drivers, this boat is very different.
Okay, yeah. Well, and honestly, when I was watching the YouTube, every time I seemed to be able to tune in, it was always Marit driving. So I actually never saw you drive to me. I was like, oh, finally it's time. Ah, it's Marit. Okay, yeah, well, have a look here then. Yeah, okay. And next one, then I saw in our group chat, I was like, oh, great race. I was like, who raced now? It was Timmy. Oh, shit. So I never actually got to see you race, but I will tune back in. But how was on the preseason testing? Were you up there? We spoke a little bit last time about it, but were you up there? Were you feeling confident on all the starts and the race times and everything when you went into the race week? Or
yeah, I think we were very confident and was good preseason testing. Where would you say we were not the fastest for sure? We were the fastest the first day. We did the fastest lap time. But we must have missed something because then others improved more than we did. Isn't that right, Josep?
Yeah, and also having to give some time to Marit left you without not much time. To be honest, I think you tested during, an hour in total of driving time for you in pre-season testing, plus the race simulation. So we were 4 days of pre-season testing, but only actually 1 hour per Timmy, 1 hour, 20 minutes per Marit. So it was not that long.
And is that because mostly charging problems, or is it other limitations?
Well, charging time, there are a lot of teams. You only have one boat. For example, obviously in Rallycross, you have 2 cars, so you can both test at the same time. We need to share it. So we need to organize ourselves and decide who tests what and when. That is a critical point also to make the most out of that time that we have.
Yeah, so you were quite confident going into the race week, but do you feel like you have missed something? Do you have any idea not to get ahead of the race recap, but do you have any idea now after what areas that may be, or?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of ideas, isn't it, Timmy?
Yeah,
Couple of
definitely.
ideas we want to test.
But that's like automatic, you know, whenever you do a bad weekend. Not that I like losing, but actually like the creative process that comes after losing is kind of very interesting, because then suddenly like your head is full of ideas of how to improve what you just did. Whereas if you won, you're kind of very solid. You don't want to change too much. But like this process that we've had now, we've had WhatsApp calls, text messages all between the team to figure out. And then suddenly, you know, a lot of ideas come up. So it's like after losing and the disappointment, that kind of leads to a lot of creativity, which is very interesting.
And that creativity is so clear, because I remember yesterday landing off my flight after 6 hours, open the phone, and I have messages from everybody in the team with new ideas, new things to try, new things to test that we need to analyze and decide. So it's so great when you see the whole team, Timmy, Marit, Stefan, everybody working. So it's really good to have that creativity within the team.
One of the biggest clues was, like, if we get into the race recap itself, was when we went out to timed qualifying. The format there is that we get to do 3 laps per driver to make the fastest lap we can, and then the 2 fastest laps per driver are combined.
And that was over like a 15 minutes period, right? Because I watched the qualifying. I thought you could just go out and do like 3 laps and then come in and wait and do another 3 laps, but you can only do 3 flying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we from the waiting area, you actually get a better exit onto your flying lap. So we wanted to do from the waiting area 1 flying lap, and then stop it there, return to the waiting area to then get that nice run down the straight. I have a funny story actually about the beginning of my qualifying. It was an incredibly tense moment, because everybody in our group realized that you have to be the first boat on track during your 15-minute window to have a chance of the very best
so
lap
people
time.
were very stressed in the beginning there of the sessions.
Yeah, so we had a three boat big battle before the start line. So we get a countdown on our dash for when the session starts, and you can't cross the start line before that. And it was me, and Tim Brady and Tim Aoki, who were kind of all wanting to be the first on track. And even in lining up the boats, preparing for the lap, there was a big scramble of who would be ahead. And actually Brady got kind of the ahead position. And I was like, no, it will be hard to get first on track. And then they crept forward kind of far. So I saw that when they go on power, they will actually not have a lot of speed on the finish line. So I can actually make a pass and like starting my qualifying lap. So I started from behind, actually managed to outmaneuver Aoki. And then I went a full-on race start from far back, built up a ton of speed, crossed with 0.1 seconds after the green flag. Wow. With the full speed, like passing Brady on the outside. And yeah, I got that clean track ahead of me. That's a
nice feeling.
And then that lap I just did there, after that pass, was my single best lap in E1 ever. I was so happy with that lap. And I was expecting...
you were up foiling, just down by the apex and then up foiling again.
Exactly. Like I hit everything that we wanted. It was a great lap. And then I crossed the line, like kind of expecting to hear like, now we've done top time. And no, 2 seconds off.
Wow, yeah.
So, it is true though that at the start, mayhem with Brady boats and everybody trying to made you lose a bit of a speed that otherwise you would have had at the start line.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think you would have been one of the top times there. So it's tricky with those situations.
Yeah, like it cost a little, because I had to come off the throttle a bit because I saw I was about to jump start. So that did cost a little bit of exit speed there. But still, like even with the perfect lap, I wouldn't have been there. But it felt perfect. So that's kind of the first clue we got into. Like we hit everything that we wanted, but we're still behind. So we're missing something, you know. There is something that we don't understand yet. And just to be clear, we still don't understand it. This is the process of motorsport.
Surely a propeller situation again. Classic boat going. I must be the propeller. Must take a different propeller now.
Yeah, it's like the tire set. Like, no, we were on the hard tire. Should have been on the mediums. That's like the propeller.
That's always the excuse.
It's like, oh no, we were on the dry tire in Portugal, or we should have been on the wet.
Josep, it's good from your perspective as an engineer, like I've tried to explain this already, how the difference is between boat racing and car racing. Like most of our listeners are from Rallycross, but like how do we get performance out of a boat on the water to do a good lap? And how is your job different between car racing and boat racing?
There are a lot of things that are similar. Process-wise, procedures, everything we do when we analyze data, software, all that procedures are the same, and they are very, very useful. But on the other hand, obviously, it's a different kind of vehicle. We need to look at different targets when we look at performance. So there is some similitudes and some differences. And for us, for the boats, it's always try to minimize the drag. So we need to try to keep, as we said, or as you said in the previous episode, the boat as high as possible, as much out of the water as possible. But that is for full actual performance of the boat. But then there is the full strategy situation during racing, which I think this year it's even bigger, which is another point we need to talk about. Because now we have long laps and also short laps that we need to do during the race.
Well, how do you measure? How can you see on data how high the boat is foiling? Do you have sensors on the foils, or do you have it on the engine in the back, or how do you understand this on data?
There are sonars that measure it, but to be honest, it's very spotty, it's very, very inaccurate because of the water spray and everything. So it's very, very difficult for sonars to be as accurate as we need. But to be honest, it's very easy to see in the data what's happening, because we have the experience from the whole last year. We learn it just looking at data. Even the drivers, not only me, can see what's happening with the boat very, very easily. You can see as soon as you lose some height, the speed just drops. So we need to keep it as high as possible. But at the same time, when we try to be as high as possible, it becomes unstable and the drivers cannot keep it up for long. So you need to find that balance and make it viable.
And I hear a lot on the TV broadcast, everyone obviously speak about the foils and how you treat them. How much can you see any of that on data? Like if you have, I don't know, I know we've spoken about sandpapering them, and like if you have greasy hands and you will change the flow, can you see that on data, or is that just like down to the physical touch of engineers and mechanics to make sure it's the perfect way?
To be honest, you cannot see directly on the actual data of the boat. We need to do specific tests for that. So this is something that we are talking about. But it's a massive thing for us. The treatment, surface treatment of the foils, it's what we are always focused on getting as good as possible.
Do you have any idea what other teams are doing to treat their? Do they do different stuff, or?
Everybody's trying to get as much as they can from the foils.
It's interesting this year because everything's swapped around. There's like new teams that are on the top, and Brady seems a little bit more down. Aoki and Blue Rising were never really good last year. Now they're 1 and 2. So it must be a few things that people have been working on. It's still a new series, so it must be still very fascinating to try and explore how to get faster when it's still so new.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's super interesting. And every race we learn new things. We find new things. We think we get it, and then we always find something else after that. So it's fun in that sense. But
we have our internal joke, me and Josep, that like now we found it. Now we found it. And how many times have we said that? Like
at least twice per race, and it's never. There's always something extra that we're missing.
It's like when we've changed roll center or anti-dives and stuff on Rallycross, we're like, now look at this, now we got it.
Exactly.
And then you went to the qualifying races. There you had to not finish last, right, to qualify. So
no, we had a race called qualifying race. Like this race format is a bit complicated, but from the time qualifying, we'd go into a qualifying race with no short lap or long lap. It was a pure 6-lap race. Problem being, if you were last early on, you'd have to pull off the track. Like not only did it go bad, you also couldn't like even participate at the end of the race. But no, we finished 3rd out of 4 boats in our qualifying race, which put us into the group stage, which is kind of semifinals, where in the group stage, if you win the second stage of the groups, you're directly qualified for the finals. but if you finish last, you're eliminated. So I did the first group stage race, which is only for positioning on the grid. So I had the outside line in a 4-boat race. And now the short lap and long lap is open. So not just regular rallycross strategy, but also understanding this with how do you implement the short lap on top of all this with the 3 different options.
Yeah.
And we started 4th, came out in 3rd place.
We came up 2nd during the race, but then because of a strategy, we went down to 3rd.
Yeah, we got passed by Rafa boat. Rafael Nadal's team at the end of the race. They took the Joker lap early on and had very clean water, and I think I lost out by like half a second or something. So I wasn't fast enough. We also kind of missed a bit on the strategy, I would say, not like perfect, because I had to spend 1 lap in dirty water, which does cost like 4 seconds maybe.
It's the importance of the wake of the boats. If you are in dirty water or clean water, makes such a big difference. It's what you base your strategy on. So having so many possibilities of people undercutting you or going for the Joker, it gets tricky. And there are some positions, like we saw, that you don't have very good alternatives. You need to make the most out of it and play what the others are doing.
And also, just to explain to viewers, dirty water. I had someone ask me this weekend when we were watching the boat race. What do you mean by dirty water? It's not dirty, it's clean, surely. Can you explain what dirty water means and clean water means?
Exactly. If you are on the wake, it's very similar to the dirty air in Formula One when you are in the slipstream of a car. But in the boats, it's much bigger, obviously. So if you are close to another boat behind it, because of the foil sensitivity, you lose so much performance just because of the turbulence that the front boat is generating in the water, that you lose a lot of time. And this is what happens if you don't play your strategy right.
Yeah. And Timmy, from a driver perspective, when you have that, how do you, if there is the optimum racing line and there is a dirty water there, how can you then alternate your lines to be able to try and overtake? Or is that like almost impossible? How is the driver mindset with that?
Yeah, that's super hard, because in racing, like the perfect racing line in a car is like always what you go for. Like you never miss an apex, because like in Formula One, you never see them going wide on the apex to avoid dirty air. When they're slipstreaming, they still have to get to the apex, right? And so I have to pay a lot of attention to this, because in the boat, it's worth missing the apex. It's worth doing weird lines just to get into clean water. So you get this white stripe behind the boat, and then if you go off to the side, there is that little wave that is very hard with the foils to balance on, and it's very easy for the boat to tip one side. If you clear all of that, then you have fresh water out there, and it's worth doing the long way around the corner just to be in that clear water if you're close enough. But you do lose time because you're not on the optimum line. So it's a hard balance to do, and actually getting close and overtaking in these boats is kind of difficult.
You need to use a lot of boost and prepare it very well to be able to have a chance to overtake on track without a strategy.
Yeah, so the boost is key for overtaking. But now with the variable boost, that's changed from the year before also. So now you can use just a little bit of boost when you feel like it now, and just hold the button and then release and you're done. You don't have to engage, and then that's it, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Timmy, what do you think about the booster strategy? Has it been a positive or a negative?
I think it's very fun. You have 20 seconds available when you start the race, and for every second you use, it takes 2 seconds to charge. So if you use the 20 seconds altogether, it would take you 40 seconds to be back on full. So that makes you like, you can do 4 seconds here, 3 seconds there, wait a little, and so on. And I think still something that we got to work on even more without like getting too far into it. I don't know if any E1 people are going to listen to this, but we don't want to. I would love to tell you all the secrets and what we're doing and how we're looking into this. But I think we better stay out of that. Josep, you were doing the strategy like live. We had a spotter who was spotting for both inside, both outside, but Josep was managing the strategies because you were up in the command center with the race mission control.
Mission control.
Yeah. Overlooking the track, having all the data of the boat, like telemetry, and also the live timing. So you were doing the strategy on the fly. What was like the biggest challenge for you in doing that?
Well, obviously, it's first taking into account that you want the clean water, so that's usually our target. But having to take into account what the others are doing in terms of undercutting you. Before only having joker laps, it was much easier to do the good strategy. Now, I think on the first race that you did, Timmy, in the group stage, we didn't do it as good as we would like, and we learned a lot for the last race that we did. So I think in our last race, we did a very good strategy. We found all the potential performance that we could have got from that situation. And yeah, the strategy was on point. So we talked a lot, we learned a lot from the first race. It was the first time actually racing with short and open and long laps. So yeah, we got a lot of learning for the last
And
one.
it's tricky because there were so big difference also. The long lap was so much longer. It was like 15, 17 seconds or something.
18 seconds for the long lap and around 7 seconds shorter on the short one. So you need to take into account that some boats are missing both. So you need to add 26 over that.
Yeah. So, were you looking at everyone who had made them also to try and plan out when to do which one? And
exactly. And in this case, we have a very simple software. We don't have like in other motorsport series where you have optimizers of a strategy, live strategy, that you get all the possible modifications. In this case, it's not the case. So we needed to do that on the fly. But we had the good visibility of the track, besides all our softwares and the timing and everything. So we could make it out properly at the end.
So very much like Rallycross. You have to act in the moment, use your eyes, use your stopwatch or the live timing to make in the moment decisions while also trying to be strategic from a far away perspective almost.
Exactly, right? As everything, you need to prepare beforehand. So we were preparing before the last race all the possible alternatives and all the possible situations that we could find and what we will do in each case. And yeah, it planned out as we expected. So I was very happy with that result.
Yeah, thank God that you beat Katie in the last one. That was got
important.
your shit together by the end of it and beat her. Couldn't have gone home from there otherwise.
Well, you know, they were doing so well. They won the time qualifying. And Katie was flying. Absolutely, like, fantastic performance from her. And then, kind of as a shock to everybody, they ended up getting eliminated in the group stage, just like we did. So, yeah, in that group stage, we did slip down to third. So I gave Marit a third place starting position in her second race, which is the one that determines if you move on to the final or you're eliminated. If you're in the middle, you get one more chance to get into the final. But we got really caught out on strategy. We were going to go for the Joker lap, and we headed towards that, like, oh, nice, now we'll get clear water. We were in third place in the first lap, or in the first chance you can take it. And then the boat in second place also went into the Joker. And then, like, no, this was our chance to get the clean water. Then we had to stay on the normal lap. And then we also got overtaken at the same time by someone taking the short lap. So, yeah, right in that moment when we couldn't do the Joker as we wanted, then I think that race was lost and she had to fight hard during the dirty water. She just lost out by 2-3 seconds or something at the very last lap.
Yeah. We had some technical issues during the race, to be honest, that also put us in that position. But it's true that with this new style of racing, there are two key points on the race. There is the start, which is still super important, and the first lap strategy, let's say, who does what. The moment that you do a short lap, normal lap, or long lap on the first lap, you know how the race is going to go, if you have some possibilities or not. And we learned that in that race, and that's why we took it in our advantage for the next one with Timmy.
It almost feels like you need to shortcut directly. It almost feels like you need track position, whatever you do. Like, you need to be out front. You can't risk to be undercut by anyone, because that literally is almost like it becomes too much to manage in one way. Like, oh, is that person going to joker? No, we need to joker. But then we get undercut. It almost feels like you want to shortcut and get the track position good and then just play the joker strategy later on.
It's a bit of a game theory, because it's not only what you want to do, but what the others are doing. And yeah, you would think, as you say, to try to do the shortcut and keep the position. But if the first boat is already doing the shortcut, you don't want to follow him, because then you're on his way. you need to find clean water somewhere else. So that's how you play your cards. And yeah, I think we shouldn't get too much into more detail on that, but we have our decision trees now and know what to do in each case.
How much distance do you need to the boat in front to get like enough good clean water? Is it like 3 seconds or 10 or?
I think it depends a lot on the water conditions. For example, here, the water was quite stationary. So that's, for example, why in qualifying, you needed to be the first on track because the wave would stay for half a lap or 1 lap and the boat feel it. I think when it's more open water, it's going to be completely different. We need to adapt to the location.
Yeah, it was much more fun to watch the race also when it was like in a place where the water was calmer, because I remember where it was massive waves. It took forever to do 1 lap because you had so much wave you could never foil, and it was just flying up and down, up and down. So I really preferred racing when it was calm water than when it's crazy open sea.
Yeah, open sea becomes more of a random result, I would say. There is less control on the boat performance. Here it's much more, controlled by the driver. So I also prefer it this way.
Yeah. And we saw in qualifying, as Josep said, that like you had to be the very first boat in your session onto the water. Is probably something to do with, some turbulence staying under the surface, even though you couldn't see it. So even if you were half a lap behind the boat, you would be affected. Not by much, but, in qualifying, that made a difference.
It's true in qualifying. From the boat, you cannot see the wave if it's like half a lap behind the previous driver. But it was very interesting because there were some drone shots that were looking at the track during qualifying. And you could see the mark of the wave of the previous boat even more than half a lap before. So it's visible from the distance. So you need to be obviously very high to see it. But it's clearly there. And then obviously the drivers feel it.
So now first weekend is done. You went 7th. Next up is Qatar in 3 weeks, where also I will be at. So you two better watch out. I will be on your cases to make sure we win. I don't go to a race if we don't win.
Are you going to jump in the boat, Kevin?
Yeah, they always said in Andretti that I was the faster Hansen, so I might just need to sort a few things out.
Yeah, that was your nickname in our team. Like when they wanted to put me down, they're like, maybe we hire the fast Hansen. That was, I had to live with that.
So maybe I need to have a conversation with your boss about that. Do we know anything about the location, and what do we think is the things to bring with you from this weekend that was into that one?
It's in an island. Not very sure about the details of the track yet. I don't think they have been published.
No, not yet. So, but a boat track is not as different as a racetrack because you can only, it's only 2-dimensional all the time. You can only place boys, and they always try and avoid right-handers because the layout of the track is often anti-clockwise. They try and avoid too sharp right-handers because that puts a lot of stress on the outboard, and because of the direction the propeller is spinning, it's kind of complicated. But the tracks are often not that different to one another. The biggest thing is the water conditions, because the more open water there is out there, if there is a bit of wind, the waves have a lot of distance and time to build up to be so big. They haven't released their location yet, but once they do, we will try and study it to be prepared. But it will be in salt water and so on. That also has an effect on the boat.
Of course. So weird. So much different things in boat racing.
It's super weird.
I mean, are you ready for the track walk in Qatar?
Yeah, I'm going to get my swim shorts on and my puffs on my arms, and I'm going to start swimming around.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
Now imagine you guys just being out on a little paddle boat or something, like, okay, let's have a little look here.
Well, we've done it. Apex. We've done it once.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And in Venice, when we hired a boat taxi to take us around.
Yeah, the taxi driver was a bit surprised.
They hadn't placed the marks out yet. So we just told the taxi driver to go to this and that GPS location. And he was like, what do these guys want from me? Like, I'm just going up and down in the same place. And I dropped them back off where I picked them up. Like, this is the weirdest customers ever.
Yeah, he got into it, though. He was really into it at the end.
He was, actually.
Maybe he should be the pilot. If you don't start winning, maybe you will exchange you to the next to be taxi driver from Venice.
Taxi driver. That would be the best driver we could get.
Imagine that was just his name. Venice taxi driver. Official race pilot for the Brazil E1 team.
Exactly.
Mega. I look forward to the next race. Good debrief. Shame you can't share more details. I'm more intrigued, even if I don't understand. But that's motorsport. We can't share it all. And I think we will have you on a few of these. I think we should have you on some of the race debriefs from Rallycross too, Josep. It's quite nice to get the person that tells us off when we are shit to come on and actually tell us when we were doing shit, and not only us blaming you for not having a quick enough car for us.
Yeah, I would enjoy that. Looking forward to the next Rallycross race with you also, guys.
Yeah, we too. Working flat out for it.
That's coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening this episode. As always, like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure to have you here listening to us. And we'll catch you again in a week.
Thanks for joining, Joseph, and see you everyone next week.
Thank you. Goodbye.